Get it straight, Buster. I'm not here to say please. I'm here to tell you what to do. And if self-preservation is an instinct you possess, you better do it, and do it quick. I'm here to help. If my help's not appreciated, then lots of luck, gentlemen. If I'm curt with you, it's because time is a factor. I think fast, I talk fast. I need you guys to act fast if you want to get out of this. So, pretty please, with sugar on top. Listen to the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, Nice Guy community. My name is Doug Sandler, and this is the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Yeah, I know you don't normally hear me kind of checking in, and you might think that Strickland is probably fallen down in a ditch drunk somewhere. He's actually right here. My co-host, my best buddy, Strickland Bonner. What's up, Strick?
Hey-o.
So, do you like when I introduce you that way, or is that probably not a good way to start the show with a business angle?
Oh, I don't really care. It doesn't matter.
So, what's going on? Strick, you know what happens, when I start the show. You know
what it means? It means I did the interview.
Which is amazing to me because you have hit, with the few interviews that you've done recently, home runs. I mean, they've actually captivated my attention, which is not, for me, an easy thing to do. So thank you, Strickland Bonner.
You are too kind. We've doubled up. I interviewed two guys today, but you may want to get to the promise statement first before we get into it, because then we'll just get distracted and forget about it. We don't want to do that.
All right, let's deliver the Nice Guys promise statement. You guys, the Nice Guy community, are the reason why we're here and why we do what we do. So we promise to listen to you. The best way to reach us so that we can listen to you clearly is to reach out to us on Twitter. At DJ Doug is my handle. That guy over there, Strickland, the guy that's running the interviews today. At Nice Guy on Biz with a Z. Or you can reach out to Sunny at BHAM Sunny. We promise to deliver to you topics that you want to hear about, to make them fun and to make them interesting. If that means green eggs and ham, or the cat in the hat, or one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, we will do that too. We don't always have guests, but when we do, like today's show, we promise to deliver to you a high quality guest that will add value to your business. We promise to hold nothing back. That's another reason. It's another thing that you have asked us for. Full throttle us. That might mean that we every once in a while will get the explicit rating and drop the F-bomb. Every once in a while, we like we like to talk dirty to you every once in a while too. If you have not yet gotten a chance, please review us on Overcast. We know that 85% of you listen to us on Overcast. We need your help, okay? Because here's the deal. We have just two small companies and two small podcasts that are ahead of us. One is NPR and the other is Tim Ferriss. We need to go past them. We are tired of sitting in the number 3 position. There's two ways that we can do that. Number one, hit the cover art and then the recommend button. You can probably go back 100 episodes and do that. So we would encourage you, instead of spending money on anything that we have to offer, we're going to just lay off on the sponsorship right now. All we're focused on is getting our show to number 1. Please take a moment and do that. Also, because we know that 85% of you or so are listening to us on Overcast, that means you're probably using, I can see you're using an iPhone. I can see the iPhone in your hand, damn it. If you have an iPhone in your hand, go to the podcast app. Just subscribe to our show over there on iTunes. Let's get the same amount of listenership that we have on Overcast over on iTunes. It's that easy. You don't even need to listen to the show over there. Please, just take a moment and do it. We want you to do it.
You never know if something might happen to Overcast, and maybe there's a little glitch in it. And God forbid you go to listen to the podcast and it's not there. It's good to have a backup on iTunes.
I've always learned it is good to have a plan B in my business. And plan B for you, podcast app on iTunes. Okay. All right. So Strick, tell us about the guests that we have today.
So the gentlemen I interviewed today, Robert Mallon and Bill Watkins, they make up the Rusty Lion Academy, and they're on a mission to help 1 million men. Whoa. So these are guys who are very interesting. They are entrepreneurs in their past lives. They both have bought and sold businesses, and basically they are like, hey, they kind of retired, but they got kind of bored, and they're like, what do we do well? What do we want to do? They teamed up together, and they are amazing business coaches. Now, there's a couple things about them. First of all, Doug, you and I talk a lot about finding the balance.
Wait, we just talk a lot.
Well, it's true. We just yammer on a lot. But Robert and Bill really have the balance because, the fun, the outgoing versus the technical, and they balance each other out well, which you'll hear on the interview. They complement each other's strengths and weaknesses well. And they do only work with men. But what's important is it's not a sexist thing. Basically, they are trying to focus, and they know that the way that they teach their message and the way that men think, they get through to men better. And so,
are you going to say that you should niche now?
Well, that's what I was trying. I was trying to avoid the word because, we go over that niche down, whatever it may be. But that's exactly what they're doing. It's certainly not sexist. They love women. They're both married guys, and
vertically integrated. How about that?
Exactly. A big part of what they talk about is, hey, entrepreneurs need to not just live in their business. You have to find the balance between your business and your family. You've got to put energy into yourself, into your family, and it's just so critical to keep that balance. And these are guys that can help. If you are an entrepreneur and you are trying to grow your business and you feel like you're drowning in your business, this is what these guys are all about. Lots of great content. I mean, it's really very interesting stuff.
I love it. And you know what? The other thing I really love, I love the Kill Bill music that you're using. I think we need a little bit longer lead time. Can you kind of extend that little?
Yeah, you don't think we're giving enough warning that it's coming? You need it longer in the intro. We can do that.
I like it if maybe 10 or 12 seconds. I think you usually only hold it for 3 or 4 seconds?
Yeah, something like that. You mean like before it actually hits and we start talking?
Yeah,
I can do that. Sure, yeah.
Like if you started right now, that would be.
But you don't even know how much longer we're going to talk.
I don't know. But if you had started it a couple of seconds ago, that would kind of give me a little bit of information that we're just about to lead into the interview. So do you think we should get to the interview now?
Depends on how long we want that lead to be. But yeah, we can get into the interview whenever you like.
All right. So you introduce them one more time and let's do it.
Nice Guy community, thank you for sticking around. Check it out. Some great information from the Rusty Lions, Robert Mallon and Bill Watkins.
You're still there saying, ladies and gentlemen, you know that, right? Let's get to the interview.
Hey, Nice Guy community, welcome back. We have got a couple of very interesting guys today. Robert Mallon and Bill Watkins. They run the Rusty Lion Academy. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing absolutely awesome, Strickland. Thank you for having us on the show.
You are quite welcome. You guys have got a lot of great stuff that I know our listeners are going to want to hear about. You do a podcast that is very similar to ours, a lot of great advice. You guys are way more focused than Doug and I. We go off on all kinds of weird tangents. You guys probably get a lot more tangible advice than we do. But why don't you guys tell me a little bit about yourself? Robert, I'll let you go first, and then Bill, tell me how you guys got rolling into this and kind of how you met.
Well, let me defer to my older compatriot here because he is older and I do respect him. So, Bill, why don't you go first?
and age has wisdom, so you know who the wise one is in the pair.
Yeah.
Strickland, I'm a West Point graduate, decorated Army officer, corporate executive, and then in 1994 became a serial entrepreneur. And I launched my companies in my garage, and I sold all of them in 2012 and moved to Jackson, Wyoming. I met Robert at a men's group at what was then a very small church nearby, and we found and discovered that we shared similar values, and we were similar places in life with young families and growing careers. And so we became what we call treasured lifelong friends. So that was about 20 years ago. After I sold my companies in 2012, I began searching for what was next for me. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. All right, what am I doing next? And of course, I counseled with my best friend and my trusted advisor, Robert Mallon, and we discovered after about a year of exploration that we felt like we would do much better together than we would individually. We were good individually, but we'd be world-class together. 1 + 1 = 3. And so Robert, what was it? It was like November, December of 2013. We shook hands and said, let's do this. Let's go out and adventure together. And we didn't even have a name for what we were going to do, but ultimately that's what birthed Rusty Lion Academy.
I love it. we've got our age before beauty, right? Go ahead, Robert.
Okay. I'm Robert Mallon. I was born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am a Southern guy, and you might hear me say y'all today. I don't know. Sometimes it comes out, but my background, I was in restaurants for 20 some odd years and then in software for quite a while. And back in 2002, made a decision to, I was just tired of corporate life. I was tired of the, believe it or not, monotony of it. I just didn't really enjoy it. And I hired a coach and ended up about 5 months later leaving the software company and starting out on a speaking career, and which went very well very quickly. So I was out about 12 to 14 days per month speaking around the country. And then some of the companies I was speaking with asked me if I could do some work within the companies as far as like leadership training. And I'm sure most of the entrepreneurs you have on the show, when a potential client asks you a question, usually you just go, oh yeah, I do that, you know.
Sure,
so
of course.
So I said, yeah, I can do that. And what I found was actually back in the restaurant business, I was really good at growing people, and also in the software business, and it was just like a natural talent. So when I started doing business coaching and leadership coaching within businesses, it was just a perfect fit for me. So that progressed on, and that was back in 2002 up until the time that Bill and I, like he said, we've been very, very, lifelong friends basically, and I was working with his leadership. He was one of the companies I was doing work with. So he knew that I had good systems, and he also knew that I got pretty good results. I knew, on the other hand, Bill was as he said, a West Point graduate, and he was a mechanical engineering major, top 2% of his class, which is pretty stud there, but he's got a system mind. And I've got an okay system mind, like maybe a C or a C minus. He's got like an A plus. And so I definitely knew in my business that I needed that part, like don't try to do everything. Do what you do great and let other people do the other stuff. So when he asked me, not to mention the fact that Bill is just an extremely powerful leader and a person who I greatly admire, when he asked, if I'd like to work with him and develop this company together, I was like, I don't even think, Bill, it was 2 seconds. I went, dude, I'm all in. Yeah, I'm in, And I think it might have surprised him, but like I've thought about it for years and always wanted to work, and partner with Bill. So that worked out great. So our focus, just so your listeners know, very niche. We only work with men who are either business owners or key leaders within businesses who are between the ages of 30 and 49. And we hear from many, many, many men who are struggling. They're at a point in their business. What's the best way to say this? They're at a point in their business to where it's really going well, but they're working so many hours that they're struggling not to screw their lives up. And so if you know what that means, Strickland, it's like, maybe they're getting divorce papers because they're never home, or maybe their kids don't know who they are, or maybe their health is suffering because they're working so much and they just don't have the right tools. So that's who both Bill and I are extremely attracted to. That's who we feel like we work best with. And also, Bill, why don't you tell them? I'm sure some of the listeners are going, well, why not women? What's up with these guys? But tell them real quick, why we choose not to do that.
Well, Robert and I have one of the values we share is a value of excellence. It's actually one of our 3 foundational maxims at Rusty Lion Academy: seek excellence. And by excellence, we mean world class. And so when we started this business, everything we were going to deliver would be world class. Not perfect, but world class. And so because our framework, our proprietary framework, is sitting in 2 buckets. One is thriving business and the other is extraordinary life. And so we're working with men who are struggling with the strong desire, the DNA level push for them to build something significant at work. And they're very talented, and they're going to do that. These are the These are the world masters, the change makers of the world. On the other hand, of course, if you ask them what's the most important thing in their life, they'll always turn to you and go, my wife and my kids, man. I mean,
Sure.
they mean everything to me. And then we'll say, well, dude, show us your calendar. You know, how are you investing? Are you investing the same amount of time in this important part of your life, your wife and your kids, as you are in your business? Are you the CEO at home that you are in business? Well, here's the deal. Because we have a foot in both buckets, yes, we could definitely coach women in business. And they're probably as smart or smarter than all of us men in business. But here's the thing. Our coaching comes from our observed experience, our learned knowledge, and our personal experience. And here's the point. We have never done life as a woman. Business, I think, is generic, more generic. Less, it matters less which sex you are. But doing life as a woman or as a man is definitely important. We've never been a mother, a sister, a wife, a daughter. We've never, been pregnant. We've never delivered a baby. We've never nursed. We've never done all these things that women do. And so it would be silly, actually, for us to tell a woman that we can deliver world-class coaching in that part of her life.
And Strickland, I can tell you this too. We've both been married over 30 years, and we can tell you that our wives would tell you that we don't understand women at all. So I'm sorry, Bill, to cut you off there, but that's kind of true. We have daughters. I have a granddaughter, and we love women, but we've never been that. And you can see it from afar, but.
No, and I certainly appreciate the focus. I totally understand that to be a successful business, you really have to focus on what do you do best. Focus on that and continue doing that. And, men and women they think differently. They work differently. There's no right or wrong or better or worse. It's just different. And I totally agree with you guys that knowing where your focus is and knowing where you can do the most good is if you are trying to do this with women, it may be more of a battle. I totally understand. It's not sexist at all. I think it's a great plan.
No. And I think women are much more talented in certain aspects. We men come very driven and almost one-dimensional when it comes to the mission in business, the mission in our career, the mission at work, whereas women seem to be able to maneuver more fluidly between the important things in their life. And so that's why sometimes they don't get us, and we men feel misunderstood. But it doesn't mean that they're right and we're wrong. It's just the way that we are, Strickland. So what we do is we empower those men through our proprietary process called the launch sequence. We empower men to get what they want most in the most important areas of their life, and work is only one of those. Mm-hmm. And so when they master this process, they can live present, fulfilled, and still make the big impact at work that they were put on earth for, that our wives respect. Our wives respect our contributions at work, but our wives also want us to be present and fulfilled at home with them, with our children, with their friends and our family, and all the other important aspects of our life. So I think, and one of the reasons, and I think, Strickland, you can identify this, one of the reasons why Robert and I are, number one, so deeply passionate about this, and number two, why we're so good at it, is because we were those 30 to 49-year-old men who did struggle, who did live in the frenzy and chaos and the seeming always imbalance of those two parts of our lives, and the strong desire to build uber success at work and yet be free and happy and fulfilled at home and all that. So I don't want anybody in your audience to ever think that we were the gurus on top of the mountain who became enlightened, with a lightning bolt. One of the reasons we call Rusty Lion Academy Rusty Lion is because, yes, we are lions. All men want to be lions. But, dude, we have so many scars and so many failures that we don't want men to fail like we did.
Yeah, Bill, top 2% of your class at West Point, I'm sure you know nothing whatsoever about being that driven, type A personality kind of guy.
Well, hold on. I was in the top 70% at Western Carolina University, so I think I did pretty good too.
Yeah, Robert, I think you and I were probably around the same area, the same college level. Yeah.
Well, Strickland, let me jump on that just for a second, because I would like your audience to leave with a particular thought. You're absolutely correct. You know, I grew up with a career military father who served on the battlefield, and he was a great man, and I deeply respect what he poured into me as a father. But I observed him, and always we sons want to oftentimes be like our fathers. Then I went to West Point, and I learned the West Point. You know, you're very malleable at 18 and 19 and 20. So West Point poured into me, and then I did my career in the Army. Here's what we discovered, Robert and I, later, that drove me literally to my knees in 1988, was I had an inner message, and we all do, and this is the point that I want your audience to hear about. What was my inner message? Accomplish the mission at all costs. And I heard, whether it was real or not, I can't remember, I heard that when West Pointers fail, men die. Now, how did I translate that in a dysfunctional way in my life? Getting my kids on the school bus was a mission. Reading stories at bedtime was a mission. Bath time was a mission. Legos was a mission. Getting to soccer practice was a mission. You know what I ended up doing, Strickland? And we all do this in not maybe in my way, but in your own respective ways, is I ended up bulldozing my way through life in an inappropriate way. And it took me a while to grapple, number one, to everybody saw it except for me, and then number two, fix it so that I could be a real human being, as opposed to some guy who lived in this mythical battlefield where everything was life or death, and it was so important that we did it, we got to soccer practice on time, and all these dumb things that I was doing as a father and a husband. So the point is that we have to be conscious of that, and it contributes to how we manifest ourselves into work and at home.
Oh, it's so interesting, because we often forget that our perspective of where we're coming at things so affects everything else. And clearly, coming from a military father and then going to West Point, I mean, everything that he taught you clearly was just reinforced at West Point. And, it is amazing to think one little phrase, when West Pointers fail, men die. And you're right, you probably had that drilled into your brain, and you didn't even realize how much it had totally affected everything else in your life. And obviously that's a somewhat extreme example, but we all have that, and we don't realize sometimes.
Yeah, we do. And even at our respective ages, we one of our coaches is Dan Miller from 48days.com, and we were with Dan a year ago, and we were reviewing how our business was progressing, and Dan's helping us, and it's just so amazing to be with him. But one of the things that we discovered, that Dan discovered, that he uncovered for us, was that these messages that we coaches, we mature coaches who deliver, actionable, valuable advice to men every day, we still had some work to do on our own inner messages that was affecting the way our business was developing. And I'm going to tell you, Robert, I want you to jump in here. I think it took 2 minutes for us to reel in our jaws. We were just blown away that Dan connected something in our present day, our business, with these inner messages that we felt like we'd mastered and we were all done with those, and we weren't. And I think they exist, whether you're 30 or whether you're 60. And I think we're always like, an alcoholic never says they're not an alcoholic. They say they're a recovering alcoholic. And I think we're a recovering inner message person, human being, that we always have to be conscious of it.
Oh, it's so true. And sometimes you need somebody from the outside to see it and tell you about it. And that's one of the great things that I love about your combination too, Robert. You hit on earlier that you guys complement each other. And we talk about that all the time on the show. You do not want to find someone as a business partner who does what you do. You need to complement your shortcomings and your weaknesses so you can each do what you do best. Robert, why don't you tell me a little bit about that? Because obviously, Bill, you are the engineer and you are the processes kind of guy. Robert, what is it that you bring to the table from the combination here?
Well, let's go back to kind of what Bill was saying and the balancing out. But mine was, Bill's inner message was win at all costs. Mine, because of the background I grew up in, was self-doubt. And my parents divorced when I was 8 years old. My mother went back to college, and she worked 2 and sometimes 3 jobs, while she was going to college. And then she got a great job working at a petroleum engineering company. But long story short, I was somewhat of an at-risk kid and didn't have a dad at home, had a sister and a mom. And I started, experimenting with things when I was 13, 14 years old. But a lot of the kids that I hung around came from wealthy homes, and I didn't live in a wealthy home, and just didn't have a lot of people pouring into me. My mother obviously loved the heck out of me, but she was busy, just trying to feed us. And so there was a lot of just self-doubt, like not knowing if I could do things and not having a strong male figure in my life telling me that I was worthy and all. Well, over the course of several years, I had 3 extremely strong men pour into me. And I'm talking major business owners, and I'm talking more than just like we get together, but more like, what's a good way of saying, almost like they were uncles, I guess you could say, but they just took this major interest in me, and they really shaped my life in that way. Now, it's very funny, though, in all those years of business, obviously I had a lot of, failures, and, there were always things going on, but I had a lot of success too, won a lot of awards, but I still have that self-doubt thing going on here at 60 years old, still have that creeping up. And I never was really aware of it until Dan, brought that up and kind of pointed it out to Bill and I. The interesting part, though, you have the win at all cost and the self-doubt. And I think that pretty much every man on the planet has a combination of both of those. I really, really do. So the balance out thing, I'm very much more, well, should I say very much? I'm more of the extrovert. Bill is more the introvert. I'm more the front of the stage. Bill is more behind the stage. I'm more of the, I'm very much more verbal. He's very much more, I guess you could say, writing is good for him. Like his emails are rather long to me sometimes, but but I mean, it's just the way it is. It's just, and he's very logical brained. I think I'm probably very right brained. And so but it works out very, very well. Sometimes we get upset with each other, but we've got all that figured out, and we know it's just like a marriage. I mean, we've got great, great wives, but that doesn't mean that every day is going to be a perfect day in paradise. That means that, man, sometimes you got to get down and dig down. So we're very good at that stuff. And I think that our team, which Bill, I would say, I'm just going to go out on, that's the thing that we're most proud of, is the team that we have. They respect the fact that we're so different, yet our hearts are practically the same. So our focus is really the same, and our mission is definitely the same.
It sounds like you got that kind of Walt and Roy Disney thing going on. Most people don't realize how important Roy Disney was to but Walt was the out front guy. He was the face, he was the name, he was the dreamer, and Roy was the accountant and the processes and the money, and they were a great team. So
I'd rather say that we're more like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, and Bill would be the Jerry Lewis. How about that? I'm going to know he's
what?
No, that would be me, I guess. Okay.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, one of the things that you guys focus on a lot is it's about employee motivation. I know one of your great lines that I believe in 100%. Talent is nothing without motivation. You guys want to talk about that a little bit?
Go ahead, Robert.
Absolutely. Well, when it comes to motivation, people actually, Bill, or actually Strickland, can I ask you this? Could we give your listeners a gift?
Oh, absolutely.
Would that be
They can do that.
And we'll talk about it, but there's people don't really understand what motivate people. And there are a top 6 motivators, and there is a bottom 6 motivators, or demotivators, I guess you could say. And we can send them along with some other stuff that has to do with employee motivation. There is a thing, I'll just kind of throw this out there, called the platinum rule. And Strickland, what's the golden rule?
Golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Exactly. Okay, now is that a good rule or is that a bad rule?
Yeah, that's a good rule.
Great rule. Okay, but if you use the golden rule exactly the way it's stated, you're going to create more chaos and confusion really than cohesion. Here's why. If I treat you, Strickland, the way I want to be treated, that might not be the way that you want to be treated.
Okay. Point.
So there's another rule called the platinum rule. I think a guy named Tony Alessandra came up with this, but the platinum rule says, do unto others as they want to be done unto. So what that means is you adjust your personality type and the way that you communicate with people to their personality style. And there's several different personality styles. But we can actually send out, and we can, I guess, Bill, you could give them the link to that. We'll just throw it out there, and we'll give it to your audience. No big deal. It's a free give there. And, go ahead, Bill.
No. Strickland and I'll create a URL here in a second, but we'll share the course, the videos, and the handouts, and everything related to what Robert's talking about.
Yeah, one particular fact that so many business leaders and entrepreneurs don't understand: the number 6 motivator of employees is compensation. There's 5 that come in front of that. And every study I've ever seen, and I've seen them now for probably close to 20 years, probably not quite 20, but I've seen a lot of different compensation always comes in number 6 and number 7. Okay, here's the reason why. People don't think about money that much. They do think about things like recognition, having great goals and knowing what the goals are, having autonomy and not having somebody stand over them. A huge one, getting useful feedback. What do you think that means, Strickland? Useful feedback.
Oh, that you've got to know when you're doing badly, but also you got to know when you're doing well, so you can continue to focus in the right area and steer the direction that the company wants you to go.
And I mean, for example, if you're my manager and you walk by me and you see me doing something wrong, and you don't say something to me, what's my natural assumption?
Oh, that I'm doing fine. Yeah, you're hurting yourself ultimately if you don't say anything. Absolutely.
And so many leaders just shy away from having those conversations, so they don't tell people how to, or show people how to do their jobs better, because they're afraid of conflict. They're afraid that they're going to hurt somebody's feelings and all that type of stuff. And so in this thing that we'll send to your people, we'll also talk about how do you give proper feedback to people in a way, now this will blow your mind, that they actually say, well, thank you. Now, isn't that nice, as opposed to, getting into arguments and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot to that, the motivation.
I think one point that I would make that we talk in detail in the video, Robert, is that people rarely quit a company; they quit a boss.
Yeah,
and
That's very true.
And so the issue is that you, as the leader, must understand the motivations and respect the motivations of your subordinates, of your subordinate leaders, your subordinate employees. And there are so many leaders that are so caught up in their world. And I understand it's a frenzied world. It's a seemingly chaotic world sometimes. But you're leading other human beings who have motivations. They have an inner self, an inner place, and they're wanting to connect those motivations with your company motivations, your company mission, your values, and all that. And disregarding those, or even just ignoring those, is to your detriment. And therefore you have higher turnover, and you're not getting the productivity and the performance out of your employees, your team, your company that you could, and therefore you're frustrated, therefore you're more frenzied, you're more chaotic, then it's this vicious circle. So one of the things we talk about is how to dive deep and understand, how to unpack and then understand and show respect for those motivations. And oftentimes, if you're doing a good hiring, you have a good quality A-player hiring system, then you do have people who are genuinely wanting to contribute and should be contributing to your company. You just haven't figured out how to motivate them yet.
No, it's true. You know, you're not doing yourself or your employee any favors by not communicating that with them, because if you don't tell them how to do better, then they never will do better, and then they're not going to be motivated. And no, it's so true. It's so true. All of this information is Rusty Lion Academy. This is a teeny tiny sliver of the information that Robert and Bill can help you out with. There's lots of free resources at the RustyLionAcademy.com, which of course the links will be in the show notes as well.
Yep.
And the guys do all kinds of one-on-one coaching, and I mean, I'm looking over the podcast and just really, really great stuff on here. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the podcast, guys? Do you do a similar kind of thing where it is a lot of the business advice, right?
Yeah. The name of our podcast is The Lion's Den for Businessmen, and you can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, and the other ones out there, the players. We do 2 different podcasts on it. It's a little unique, and every Monday, Bill and I put out a podcast. It's just Bill and I talking, but we're teaching something about business to businessmen, how to get better at it. It could even be, we did one a couple of days ago, Bill, I guess it was yesterday actually, but we did one about why leaders need to be out in nature and how that actually benefits them, and the scientific studies of actually taking a hike, like when your employee tells you to take a hike, maybe they're doing you a favor because you should be out there doing, but there's a lot of scientific reasons behind that. So it's as diverse as that to how to be a better leader, all that type of stuff. Every Thursday, we put out another podcast that is usually about a 35, 40-minute long podcast, but we're interviewing a lion. And so these lions are successful businessmen. Many of them have had a great deal of success, but they've also got those scars that we talked about earlier. So we really talk about their journey. What did they do right? What did they not do right? What advice can they give to the lions in our audience? We call our audience also the Lion's Den. Mm-hmm. So that's our audience. And I hate to say it because we do it, but it's great stuff. It's like yours. It's interesting. Every time you go on, you learn something new. And just like you, Strickland, I love it. I know you already told us before the show started how much you love doing this. I love it too, because you meet people you would never, ever meet if you weren't doing a podcast ever.
No, it's so true. It's definitely been really exciting and really a lot of fun. And I just really love that, the Nice Guys on Business, it's really all about how can you succeed in business by being nice. But it is so much also about the balance. You have to take care of yourself. Because if you're not healthy or happy, if you're stressed, that comes through in your business and obviously affects your family. And so I really love the tack that you guys are taking, that it is not just about, driving the business along, but it is about keeping yourself healthy. It is about balance with your family, and everything needs to stay in balance. So if you got a minute, if you guys, what I'd love to hear about is tell me about a failure that each of you had that ultimately turned out where you ended up learning something from it. Like, what was a really bad point in your business life where you felt like everything was just terrible and will never be good again?
Hold tight just a second. Bill, as opposed to me telling the story, Strickland, Can I propose, Bill, that we do the 1982-2012 story of yours? I think it's so awesome.
Oh, really? Okay.
Would you mind? Yeah. This is world class, Strickland. So I'm putting it on the spot here, but it's great.
Okay. I will tell it really quick. So starting in 1975, recovering from a knee surgery at West Point, I became a world-class cyclist, and I was in the Olympic Development Program. In 1980, I was living in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center and competing and training at the world-class level. 1980, we boycotted the Olympics. 1984 was Los Angeles, and our cycling program had gone from mediocre after the Polish national coach defected at the Montreal 76 Olympics. Our cycling program was going from mediocre to top tier. And so by Los Angeles, we had the chance to be on the podium, maybe even win a gold medal in the event that I was competing in. And so I was in the military, trying to balance a military career with an Olympic career, but I had a shot, and a pretty good shot. I wasn't the best, but I was definitely a player. And so at the 1984 Olympic trials, it was a 3-race cumulative point system that would qualify you for selection to the 1984 Olympic team and go to Los Angeles. So after the first 2 races, I was reasonably competitive, and I had a good shot. I just had to finish, I don't know, in the top 10 or something. I don't remember, but we were on the line for the 3rd race. Everyone nervous. I'd been working on this for about 9 years, so this was it. And the gun goes off, and I go to push off my pedal to start riding, and it's like a mass start race, like a marathon or something. Mm-hmm. And my foot goes straight to the ground, and that's because my chain is broken. Oh. That doesn't happen very often, if ever, but it sure happened to me on the start line. And I even had a mechanic that took care of my bike. And oh my gosh, who knew while that happened? So, I was very nostalgic about it, and I just kind of was a little disappointed, and I just moved on with my life. That's
so
not
tell them the truth now.
Yeah, that is absolutely not how it happened. Here is this testosterone A-player, Superman, West Pointer, who picks up his bike, throws it 30 yards, has a temper tantrum, cusses in front of thousands of people, swears at the heavens and God, and grabs his crucifix from his neck and rips it off. I mean, it was the most embarrassing thing. It brings tears to my eyes that there are people out there on the planet who remember me in that moment in that way. And it took me months and months to recover from that. And there's a lesson in it that I'm going to tell you after I tell you this. So I retired from cycling immediately. I did get selected to the long team for the Olympics anyway, but I just definitely had a bad time in life. And so fast forward, I had retired. I didn't ride my bike ever again. Fast forward to 2008 when I decided to make a comeback at the world-class level as a 56, 57-year-old man. And I had the goal to win a national or world championship, and also to get on the podium of a professional race, which is the 20 and 30-year-olds, which I did, all of the above. And so here's what happened. I go to the race again. So I'm at the national championships. I'm a favorite for this event. I may not be the winner, but I'm going to be on the podium. 16 minutes and 28 seconds into the race, I have a cardiac issue flare-up called atrial fibrillation. Mm-hmm. And that's when your heart rate goes from, 80 to 250. Mm-hmm. And so they're on my heart monitor. I'm monitoring my heart as I race. I have this incident, which means that I have to stop. So I pulled over. Everybody passes me. I go from first place to last place. I limp into the parking lot. All my family or friends in there, and they're all, cheering me up. And I was sad, but I handled it way better than I did in 1984. And that next morning, I call my coach and we talk, and he says, I'd like you to race on on Friday, tomorrow. And I said, well, that's a race that I haven't trained for. He said, I think you should race it. You're there, doesn't matter, have fun, just relax. You're not a favorite, so there's no pressure. Just go out there and have a great race. I did, and I won. And I won the national championships in a race that I had not trained for against guys who were 10 times better than me. And I definitely celebrated, as did my friends and family. So here's the point. In that early morning post-race in 2011, I was processing the fact that I had gone from a man who identified himself, his being, with his medals. The reason that I had the temper tantrum on the start line in 1984 was because I was now a failure in life.
Right.
It's not that I just failed and my chain broke. It was that Bill Watkins was a worthless human being because now he could not compete in the Olympics. In 2011, I lost. I came in last place when I should have been in first or at least on the podium. But you know what? Bill Watkins had a great journey to get to that competition. Bill Watkins had a great friends and family, both there and remotely. Bill Watkins was a great guy. And that was the change that I had learned in 30 years. And it was one of the reasons I think that contributed to my win, my so-called success the next day. And that is the story, I think, of one of the deepest, darkest failures in my life. I have such emotion to think about what a poor, pitiful human being I was in 1984. On the outside, I was so successful. I mean, I was King Midas. Everything I touched turned to gold, turned to a win, turned to a gold medal. But on the inside, I was a hollow man, and everybody saw that on the start line when I had that rare moment of a bicycle chain breaking. But in 2011, I had matured to just that. I'm a man, a human being who wins, who loses, and that's okay. That's just part of life. And I think the lesson in that failure, in my failure, was the recovery from that failure and committing myself to becoming a good person, what I viewed as a valuable human being.
I couldn't even imagine training so focused like that for 9 years, and then in one shot, it's all over, and something that you have no control over whatsoever. It had nothing to do with you making a mistake or you not training hard enough or you losing focus, just a mechanical failure that could never be predicted, that you had no control over. That, wow. Especially for, I'm sure, a guy like yourself, you are very used to being in control and being in charge, and you know exactly what's going on. I mean, I just can't even imagine how helpless you must have felt.
Yeah, it was well, unfortunately, my helplessness, I had helplessness in both eras, right? So 1984, it was a chain. In 2011, it was a heart.
Right.
I mean, I remember my cardiologist said, I have never seen anybody so healthy have this, issue. Normally it's someone who's overweight with diabetes and, all these other issues going on in their life. But he said, hey, it's the real deal, man, so let's work on it. And believe it or not, I have to tell your audience this, Strickland, I haven't had an atrial fibrillation incident since that day.
Wow.
It was a one-time event that came out of the blue and then left. And so when these things happen, this is what I tell our clients, our audience, or anybody that'll listen. It's not what or it's not when or if you'll have a setback. Some setbacks are more catastrophic than others. It's just when, what, and most importantly, how you will react to them.
No, that's it. It's life isn't about what happens to you. It's about how you react to what happens to you and how you choose to deal with it. So Robert Mallon and Bill Watkins, they are the Rusty Lion Academy. We're going to have all the links in the show notes, but it is rustylionacademy.com. You can get their podcast on Stitcher, and we've got the we're going to put a link in too for the free. You're going to do the
so here's what we'll do. We'll put a private page together. Let's make the URL real quick. But we'll put the course together on employee motivation, which also, by the way, works with motivating your kids and all of that stuff. And we'll make it rustylionacademy.com/nice guys, if that works for you, Strickland.
That is perfect. That would be amazing. I would definitely appreciate it.
Strickland, could I throw one more thing in there? One of the primary ways that we help men is through a free weekly web training that we basically teach men how to grow their business while maintaining that balance we've been talking about. And it's usually on Thursdays. Sometimes it changes, but if I could just offer that also to your listeners, if they go to rustylionacademy.com/live training, they can find out when the next ones are going to be. And I think they would learn quite a bit if they're really trying to grow themselves into their full potential. I think they'd learn a lot on these trainings.
I love that. So we're going to put all those links in the show notes. The live training is rustylionacademy.com/live training. To get your free employee motivational book, rustylionacademy.com/nice guys. As always, all the links are to me in the show notes. Gentlemen, thank you so much. It has been incredibly interesting. I absolutely appreciate your time today.
We've thoroughly enjoyed it, Strickland. Yep.
Yeah, this was fun and energizing, and I know my days just went from a 9.5 to a 9.95. Thanks for doing that, Strickland.
I love that. I love that. Gentlemen, thank you so much once again. Steve O'Brien, take us out of here.
Don't forget to take the Nice Guy survey at DougSandler.com. It's only one question. What do you like? And you can download this episode's show notes too. I mean, really, how else would they be able to send you your complimentary set of steak knives?